Welcome to Your Hero Academia by Fangirl48 on AO3, Chapter 13, Battle Trials, Part 2. And then I could add some magnets in her boots? Izuku rolled his eyes, watching as the inventor's hands moved, stretching out new things. May. Blasty definitely needs something, like a scope for his mask, or maybe some kind of launcher for long-range attacks? May. Legs definitely need an overhaul, though. His body armor looks familiar, but once again, I don't see any cooling off those legs. Classic mistake. Can you believe that? I can probably add it myself once I get my hands on that armor. May! What? You're scaring the kids. Izuku gestured to the other students behind him. A rather noticeable distance was between the pair and the rest of 1A. Seriously, I know you love your babies, but can we please not glamorize everyone, at least on their first day? The Pinkette looked confused. But I have so many ideas. And I'm sure they would all be great, Izuku offered, looking at the fight. Kirishima had been holding Bakugo off from going after Uraraka for a few minutes. The pair's quirks made them perfection of the immovable object meeting the unstoppable force. But you know what's even more challenging? What? May asked excitedly. Samples. Izuku smirked, seeing confusion drawn on the infector's face. Come on, think about it. The best way to get a client long-term is small samples that would make them want more later. Yariozu looked away from the screen and at the pair curiously. Oh, May realized, seeing the benefits of that. Like putting a radio in Zero G's helmet. Exactly, Izuku nodded. Comms are important, and adding a cooling device to Ida's legs would also work long term, but not having it could get him injured. What else? Before May could answer, a loud buzzer rang, startling everyone. All Might smiled and picked up the microphone. And that is the end of our first trial. Villain team wins. The hero team gave disappointed sighs as they followed the villains and left the building on screen. When the four students returned to the monitor room, All Might turned to the rest of the class. Now we critique the match, but before that, can anyone guess who the MVP was? Duh, Kaminari said, gesturing to the explosion user. Has to be Bakugo, right? Bakugo gave a superior look at that praise. Actually, Yariozu raised her hand. I would say that the MVP of the match is Ida. And I agree with you, young Yariozu. All Might nodded, watching the happy smile on Ida's face. Can you also explain why? Because Ida adapted based to the situation, Yariozu explained, looking at the four lined-up students. While Bakugo acted like a villain, typically would, if he came at someone like he did in real-life Crisis, his license would be suspended. On the other hand, the heroes did not work as well together, or they would have. Kirishima was focused on Bakugo, endangering his partner by not calling for backup when he should have, or trying to escape with her. If they had worked together, they might have been able to capture Bakugo before going after Ida. Dark Eyes turned to the gravity user. Uraraka also lost her focus halfway through, and like Bakugo, her attacks became equally reckless. If Kirishima hadn't destroyed some of the wall to give Uraraka some small projectiles, she would have been helpless due to Ida's foresight in clearing out the room. Everyone stood in awe as the creation user broke down the fight. Ida, on the other hand, treated everything as if it was real, including the fake bomb. Yariozu continued, gesturing to her fellow students. He devised a conscious strategy to the heroes, even with his teammate abandoning him. The two, standing near Bakugo, suddenly felt a chill run up their spines as the dark aura escaped the blonde. You are correct, All Might smiled. Good job. The number one hero shouldn't have been surprised by the detailed assessment. Young Yariozu was one of the recommended students, but a review of the battle had been more than what he was expecting. Meanwhile, Izuku made a note and sent it to his phone to give the creation user a sticker when this was over. For some reason, the students really loved the stickers Izuku gave out. Moving on to our next battle. All Might reached into the boxes, pulling out two. For heroes, we have young Shoji and young Todoroki. And our villains, this time are young Midoriya and young Sero. May clapped Izuku hard on the back, giving him a gesture for good luck before the group made its way to the building. As Sero and Izuku walked inside, the all-or-nothing user spoke softly. We have to be careful. Part of Shoji's attacks makes him excellent hearing, so he could be listening in while we make our plans. Pulling out a small notebook and pen from inside his jacket, Izuku began writing. Suggestions? Sero looked at the pen for a second before taking it and writing something down. Since the bomb is light enough, we can use my tape to hang it. One wrong move from the heroes and it would fall, blowing up. Izuku raised an eyebrow, writing down. Would you have enough left to fill the room? Maybe, Sero wrote. Why? Shoji's big, but he's fast, and Todoroki's got a powerful quirk. Izuku pointed around the large room. But if we could hinder their movements, we could run the clock out. Sero gave a thumbs up to that. Izuku thought about it for a second, writing something else down. If you can get this room ready, I'll set up some more problems for our heroes. The pair nodded and got to work. Well, Sero started shooting out some tape, taking great care to handing the bomb up and covering the open windows. Izuku went into the halls, taking a deep breath and summoning tiny tendrils of all or nothing. Even though Izuku couldn't keep up long, he needs enough time to rip large chunks of concrete out of the wall. 30-second warning! All Might's voice came over the radio. Running back to the bomb's room, Izuku nearly fell into large tape wall. The green-haired boy couldn't help but be impressed with how much Sero had been able to procure. Out of nowhere, a small rock fell in front of Izuku. He saw Sero hanging from the ceiling, giving him a thumbs up as he lowered some more tape for Izuku to climb up with. Once they were on the same level, Sero gestured to the elbows and made an X with his arms. He repeated this a few times before Izuku understood that was the other's way. The other was either out of tape or no longer able to use his quirk as much as he could before. Nodding, the pair waited, suspense above the floor, for the heroes to make their move. It didn't take long before the whole building shook suddenly. The pair tightened their respective grips on the tape. Sero and Izuku were stunned when waves of ice crashed into the room, covering everything in a thick layer. Well, Sero wondered if that was crazy inventor Midoriya could put a heater inside his suit. Izuku was internally panicking as the cold temperature prickled across his skin. Calm down, Izuku thought to himself, tightening his grip on the tape. You're okay. You're... Crack. His heart clenched in fear. Izuku watched in slow motions as the tape scattered under his hand. Sero reached out to grab his teammate, but he was just a second too slow. Izuku fell into the ice, his head hitting the covered concrete hard, making him see spots. Groaning, the all-or-nothing user went to stand up, not seeing Todoroki enter the room. The dual quirk user sent another small wave of ice out, pinning Izuku's boots to the floor. Using tape to put the bomb out of reach, Todoroki said, looking up at the suspended bomb. If he used this ice carelessly and tried to get it down, the fake explosive would be damaged, and the heroes would lose the exercise. Clever. Izuku's breath sped up as he tried to move his legs. Let me go. Let me go. Let me go. Don't struggle. Todoroki looked down at the pinned villain. If you struggle too much, you may accidentally peel off your skin. Midoriya, calm down. Sero yelled, having a bad feeling. It's okay, let me go! Pure power, in the form of what appeared to spark, shot off of Izuku and towards Todoroki. Thankfully, the fire/ice user could dodge the first few easily, but that quickly changed as more and more started launching themselves towards Todoroki, getting faster with each passing attack. All eyes looked in horror at what was shown on the screen. None more so than All Might himself. Stay away from me! Izuku yelled, the spark shooting off his body. I won't go back! Sero hung motionlessly from the roof ceiling. one eye watching Izuku. The other kept an eye on Todoroki as he dodged the sparks. The tape user wasn't sure what would happen if one of those hit the ice user, but he didn't want to find out. Young Midoriya, All Might cracked in the earpiece. You must calm down. Young Hatsume, quickly send a message to Aizawa. Young Ida, run to the principal's office. On it. Sir? Now! One of the sparks hit the ground in front of Todoroki, cracking some of his ice. Gray and blue eyes narrowed as he prepared himself, ready to unleash another large amount of ice out of the out-of-control boy and end this. Wait! Young Todoroki, don't! All Might's warning came a second too late. Todoroki released another large sheet of ice, trapping Izuku inside it. The boy hung there, shocked and motionless. It's over, the half-cold user said, looking at Zero. You're next. Zero gulped and prepared himself. Neither students noticing the light of Izuku's quirk getting brighter and brighter. Boom! The sudden explosion caught everyone off guard. Todoroki was thrown out of the room due to the sheer force of his ice breaking. Zero thankfully was able to stay focused enough to throw out more of his tape, keeping both himself and the bomb up in the air. Blatantly, barely. Shoji's eyes widened as he rushed into the building to help his teammate. Izuku stepped out of his former icy prison with a blank look. The only sound was breaking the ice under his boots as he moved closer to Todoroki. You should have just let me go. Izuku spoke calmly, the white tentacles of his quirk sliding from his fingers. The 5-piece enclosed his hand, forming one solid piece that snapped against the ice and the concrete like a whip. I didn't want to do this. Shoto felt fear for someone who wasn't his father for the first time. Gulping, the dual quirk user got up on unsteady feet, already planning to run. Izuku swept his arms to the side. The whip his quirk created destroyed 3 of the concrete pillows. Now you've left me no choice. The youngest Todoroki moved as fast as possible down the stairs of the building, barely dodging the whip-like quirk that chased him. Turning on one of the corners, the fire/ice user hit something hard and stumbled backwards. Shoji, who had been using his quirk to listen in on the whole thing, saw Izuku's quirk coming into the attack, grabbing his partner and quickly lifting him up. Shoji started running up his actions, stunning Izuku just long enough for the dual-arm user to put some distance between them. No, we have to go down. Todoroki struggled to get out of the arms. The buildings are close enough, we can jump. Shoji interrupted, jumping and barely missing the whip as it cracked the concrete. And if we move fast enough, we can get back to the bomb while Midoriya searches the upper levels for us. Summoning an eye, the dual-arm quirk user felt a sudden flash of terror through him at what he saw. Midoriya was following them calmly, that whip of his thrashing side to side. The building worse than Bakugo had. But what really scared Shoji was his eyes. The normally friendly-looking green were now glowing, reminding Shoji of the stories of Yaki and his grandmother used to tell him about when he was a child. As the pair turned the corner, they didn't see or hear Zero appear behind Izuku. The tape user was already running low, but he should have enough left to slow Midoriya down. Man! Zero smiled and getting ready. Who knew Midoriya was a secret berserker? Hope this works. Grimacing at the pain in his arms. Zero shot something of his sticky tape out, looping it around Izuku and pulling as hard as he could. Not prepared for the attack. Izuku barely had time to react before he was being pulled backwards by his teammate. Struggling with the all-or-nothing user, reeled himself to an attack his new threat. Slap. Izuku's head snapped to the side, hair covering his eyes. Snap out of it! Zero yelled, praying he wouldn't end up like those concrete pillows, grabbing Midoriya's shoulders. Zero shook him slightly. Midoriya! Izuku slowly started coming back to his senses. The combined warmth of Zero's hands plus the sting from where he was slapped breaking through some of the ice memories. Looking up, Izuku saw his classmate, not a shadowy figure looking at him, and started shivering. Hold. Izuku trembled, his throbbing head falling on Sero's shoulder. So cold. Blinking a few times, processing everything, the tape user slowly moved and put his arms around his teammate. Exercise or not, Zero joined UA to be a hero. If he had to fail the exercise because he decided to help out a classmate instead, well, that was something the tape user was more happy to do. It's okay, I got you, you're safe now. Shoji and Todoroki heard the buzzer sound, ending the exercise on the roof. Even though the heroes had lost again, the pair was happy they got out without injury. Pushing on the radio, Zero leaned back as Midoriya latched onto him, trying to absorb as much as his body heat as he could. So, I don't think I'm going anywhere for a while. Midoriya's kind of attached now, and I don't want to poke the bear, if you catch my meaning. The radio cracked before All Might's voice came over the line. Young Shoji, do you think you could bring young Zero and young Midoriya back? Marry me. Young Yaruzu has secured us a thick blanket. When Izawa and Principal Nezu arrives, we will allow them to take young Midoriya to see Recovery Girl. The dual-arm user nodded and quickly jumped onto the roof, following his right route back to the other two, leaving Todoroki standing, his fists clenched tightly as he tried to process what just happened. As I predicted, yeah, I think Izuku has PTSD. That whole not seeing a person and instead it being shadowy and then the ice and the cold being the trigger. Yeah, it my theory is right. The whole seeing somebody in a shadowy figure and genuinely feeling like you are back in that place. That is that is a PTSD flashback. Except this is a PTSD hallucination. So I can't wait to see the next chapter and see how they handle it. It still breaks my heart to see that this has badly affected Izuku. And super badly. My heart breaks for him. But that is my theory, that Izuku has some sort of PTSD, and this was a hallucination flashback trigger, flashback episode that happened. But yeah, as always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds, have a wonderful day or night. Join our community Discord server, link is in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.